It's been almost a decade since the DREAM Act was first introduced in Congress in 2001. The bill has come up for a vote several times and has always enjoyed broad bipartisan support, yet has failed to become law. Why? Some members of Congress have voted against it because they want to see it pass as part of a broader immigration reform and fear that passage of the DREAM Act alone would hamper that possibility. Recently, many Republicans have come under fire for supporting any form of immigration amnesty, and that includes the DREAM Act. Other former supporters of the DREAM Act have switched their positions after becoming more conservative on immigration issues. But as we've been discussing, in recent months and weeks, in some coalitions have stepped up their activities in hopes of moving the DREAM Act in Congress. The big question is, this time, does it stand a chance? And Roy, you've already said that no, you don't think so. Adey, why do you think it is going to come up this time when it's failed so many other times before?
I mean, I think in part is because of the broad support from the administration, from leadership both in the House and Senate.
So you're saying before the midterm elections?
Yes.
Okay.
I understand that there's a limited amount of time on the calendar, but this remains a priority. It remains a priority for Latinos, for immigrants, for educators, for the business community, for the faith community. There's such a broad coalition of people in support of the DREAM Act. And, I can't leave out the students themselves. They have organized, they have educated, they have energized an entire community, both on their campuses, in their communities, and they've really challenged the immigrants' rights community, the education community, to step up and ensure the passage of the DREAM Act this year.
Serena, you talk to legislators on behalf of HAKU. Do you share Adey's optimism that this actually has a shot before the 2010 midterms?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we've been working hard. Adey has been at this longer than I personally have. HAKU has been at it longer. But absolutely, I mean, we're in constant touch with Senator Durbin's office, Senator Reid, and they're optimistic, and of course cautiously optimistic because we want to make sure we have the votes. But yes, absolutely.
Does this become much harder to pass if, as is currently being predicted and polls indicate, there's a much more Republican House and Senate starting in January?
So you're asking if it would be harder in January? Yes. I'm assuming again, that nobody really knows how much the houses will change, if they will change. I think polls are showing that the country is moving towards a little bit more conservative voting patterns. But yes, I agree with what she just said. I think our window is closing, and we're very hopeful that something will happen before the elections and possibly during a lame duck session as well.
Roy, strictly on the politics of it, wouldn't you, if you are a Republican member of Congress, wouldn't you be able to make the case that you've responded to a sort of humane impulse, but not thrown open the doors if you pass the DREAM Act but resist voting for something that provides a path to citizenship for the much larger number of undocumented immigrants?
Well, it's been a lobbying point for the Republicans, but clearly, 2 months before the elections, they're in no mood to pass anything to help Obama or the Democrats have a victory. So first of all, you're not going to get Republican help. Secondly, the Democrats want to hold the Senate. They figure they're probably going to lose the House, but they hope they can hold the Senate. And they know that if they require a vote, that they've got, and push their most vulnerable Democratic senators to vote for this, they're likely not to hold the Senate. This is not an election winner to vote for any kind of amnesty during this kind of high unemployment. I just don't see any math in it for Democrats trying to hold the Senate.
Adey, is there a threat for activists around this issue in passing the DREAM Act and leaving part of the public feeling, well, okay, that's done. Now we don't have to do that Herculean task of pushing for the much harder debate and the much harder votes around immigration reform?
I think that's a challenge. I think that's a concern among immigrants' rights advocates. But I think that The DREAM Act really lays the foundation for the country to continue an honest dialogue about immigration and immigration reform. I think we recognize, whether it be employers or immigrants themselves or immigrant receiving communities, both traditional immigrant receiving states and the states trying to meet the challenge of a new population, that the immigration system is broken. We can see that in Arizona. We can see it in efforts at copycat legislation like Arizona's. And so I think that the national dialogue has already started about how we treat immigrants and how we fix our broken immigration system. And I think passing the DREAM Act is a part of that conversation. I think a larger public will get to see undocumented people in a different light. I think that these students are, kind of a model of who undocumented people are, and of the story of their story and the story of their families helps to enrich that debate.